السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا، مرحبا إلى فصل اليوم، يوم الأول، درس أول في اللغة العربية، درس أول حروف العربية. سأكتب على سبورتي الحروف العربية. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحروف اللغة العربية. الحرف الأول ألف. في مستقبل نعمل بكتب الأجرومية في النحو والصرف والإعراب. Hello, today I want to talk more about the Arabic script in depth. This will be part 2. So, last time we left off with the letter Dad, which is a very hard letter for non-Arabs to pronounce. Dad. And took me a long time to be able to pronounce this word with more accuracy. And it was probably the last letter of the Arabic alphabet that I learned to pronounce with accuracy. And probably like the main reason I learned it, the main reason that I was able to learn it, I think a lot quicker than other people did, is the fact that at the point in my life when I was kind of really in my beginning stages of learning Arabic, I was living with two Arabs. They were my roommates. They were from Sudan, North Sudan. Arabic was their native language. And one of them, his name was Fayyad. So, in order to say my roommate's name, I had to learn the Dad, because his name was Fayyad. So, I had to kind of use it on a daily basis, and I didn't really want to butcher my friend's name. Especially since he was such a cool guy. And so yeah, Dad, it kind of just gonna take some time getting used to. A lot of these letters in the Arabic language, they're gonna take some time to get used to, especially what I call the drop jaw letters, the ones where you have to drop your jaw all the way down in order to pronounce them correctly, because it affects the vowels around them. So if we go through the alphabet: alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, kha, dal, dha, ra, zay, sin, shin, sad, dad, ta, ta. So ta, va. So I'm not sure if we went over ta. But ta, we'll go over it again. Ta is a really strong, emphatic T, and it's a kind of what I call a plosive, where this burst of air comes out with it, ta, and it's a drop jaw letter, so your jaw has to come down, and you have to open your mouth, ta, ta, tu, ti, ta, tu, ti. You can see how it affects the vowels around it. So one word that starts with ta in Arabic is talib. Or you could say qata', which means to cut. That's where the ta is in the middle. Qata'. Or, I'm trying to think of a word, maybe it ends dabt, dabt, dabt. It's got the dad, ba, and ta, dabt. And so yeah, that's kind of like a really emphatic T sound. It's like the same area of articulation as ta, but it's ta, ta. And with ta, the tongue is kind of, it's a little bit more flat in the mouth, but when you do ta, the tongue curls up, it points at the top of the tip of the tongue is pointing at the roof of the mouth, kind of. Ta, ta. And then you have an emphatic interdental fricative. So it's like tha or thal, but it's va, Thaw. Thaw. Try to get closer so you can see my teeth and stuff. Thaw. 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 So there's one Arabic word comes to my mind right away, dhum, which means oppression, or you could say dhulumat, which means darkness, or if you wanted at the end of the word, you could say mahfuz, which means something that's protected or preserved, or you could say nadhar, nadhar. So yeah, you have thaw, and the only difference between thaw and thaw, when it's written, is the little dot. So you have thaw and thaw. They're kind of like sisters. Both kind of written very similarly. They both kind of have that same emphatic drop ja going on there. So thaw, thaw, thaw. Then you have ayn. And this is kind of like another pot belly letter, but it's a little bit different. Ayn. And ayn is done with the epiglottis. And the letter ayn is basically, it's kind of hard to explain, but you're you're using the epiglottis to kind of squeeze the air and make that noise. So, you know, some Americans, they might have made the sound when they're like, you know, making a pretend choke noise, like ah. So ayn, ayn, ayn. So you could say ayun, which means eyes, or you could say Ba'ath, which means resurrection. There's a political party in the Arab world called the Ba'ath Party, which has created a lot of havoc. The Ba'ath Party, it's a political party, Hizb al-Ba'ath. And as I mentioned earlier, you have the word qata', which means to cut. So after ayn, you have the letter ghayn. And ghayn is like ayn, except ghayn, it has a dot on top. And these are kind of like sister letters here too, ayn and ghayn. And they're pronounced in very similar areas. Now ghayn is voiced. As you can hear, there's a lot of vibration going on in the throat. So this is kind of the sound people make when they gurgle water. So gha, ru, ri, ghayn. And I'm trying to think of some words that have ghayn in it. Faragha means to empty. Faragha. You have the word taghut, which means like idols or tyrannical rulers, taghut. You have the word ghuruba, strangers. You have the word ghurfa, which means room. So yeah, that is ghayn. And ghayn is also a letter that most non-Arabs have a lot of trouble with. I see a lot of non-Arabs, they are basically turning it into a G sound, or they're not emphasizing the voiced aspect of it, the vibration. That's something that's pretty important. So I noticed that a lot of non-Arabs really struggle with that sound. I noticed Somalis, because there's a lot of Somalis around me. In Minnesota here, when they try to learn Arabic, they struggle a lot with that sound, and that's a big problem because that sound is found quite often in Arabic. So you have ayn, ghayn, qaf, kaf. So let's start with qaf. So let me backtrack a little bit. So alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, kha, dal, dhal, ra, zay, sin, shin, sad, la, ta, dha, ayn, ghayn, fa. Let's go with fa. I don't want to miss any of them, so double checking. We'll go with fa. So fa is like the F sound in English. There's not really much of a difference between the Arabic and English. Fa, fa. Like I mentioned the word earlier, faragha. So there's fa. And fa, it kind of, it's this little kind of circle with a dot on top, and then it kind of goes flat, and then has a little kind of thing at the end, as I'm sure you can see here. So, fa. And it's in the word maftuh, which means open. You can see it in the word, I'm trying to think of one that ends with fa, so I can give you more examples. Gharf, which is plural for ghurfa. So then we'll go with qaf. And qaf, right away as you notice, qaf is kind of like fa, but the thing about qaf is it's like tail, so to say. It goes down and underneath. So I don't know if you guys remember little handwriting like style papers that they have you write on as a kid with cursive, where you get a solid line, then it has a dotted line and a solid line. So if you're writing qaf on that, the tail of it goes underneath the bottom solid line, qaf. And qaf is something that some foreigners have trouble with. Didn't take me that long to figure it out. It's like a really hard sounding K, qaf, qaf. And it kind of does affect the vowels around it, qaf. You kind of round your lips a little bit more when you say it, qaf. So yeah, it's like a really hard sounding like K sound, and it's further in the back of the mouth, qaf. So like the word qata' begins with qaf. Let me think of some other words. So you have Arabic name, first name, Farouk, that you see pretty common. You'll see it across the Muslim world, Farouk. You have the Arabic word faqad, faqad. So, as you saw earlier, the traditional way to learn Arabic, they speak only Arabic. And so they would say, أتكلم اللغة العربية فقط. So you have the word faqad, and furuq, and well, obviously the word Quran starts with qaf, Quran. And so then we'll go next to kaf. Now kaf, it sounds just like the calf, baby cow, calf. Calf is basically equivalent to the K in English. There's not much difference with it. Calf. Calf is kind of similar to the letter lam, which you'll see later. So you have calf, and so the word kitab starts with calf, which means book. You have also the word for seclusion during the month of Ramadan. They call it itikaf. The letter kaf is usually put at the end of a word to indicate that it's yours. So you could say kitabuka, your book. So then we have, so if we go ba, ta, dha, ayn, ghayn, fa, qaf, kaf, lam. So lam is like a sister letter to kaf. It's pretty similar, just without the squiggly line. So lam is equivalent to the L, and it kind of looks like a backwards L. Frankly, that's how I remembered it. So you have kaf and lam. And lamb is like a baby lamb. That's how I remember it. It's like the animal lamb. And yeah, it's just like an L like in English. It's not a whole lot different in Arabic the way they pronounce it. So lamb, and so you could say at-takallam, I speak, at-takallam. You also have the word latif. So there's an actress in America, Queen Latifah. Or you also have, let me think of a word. There's a word in Arabic, khalil, which means like good friend. It's also the nickname of Prophet Abraham, alayhi salam. Khalil, they'll call him Khalilullah. So Khalil. And so we have Qaf, Kaf, Lam, Mim. Mim. And this letter Mim is kind of a unique letter all by itself, but it's the equivalent to the English M. Mim. Mim. And the most common name in the whole world starts with Mim, and that is Muhammad. 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 And so, to kind of break this down a little bit, the word hamd means praise. And so you put mu in front of it, the prefix mu, Muhammad, and it becomes the praised one. So mu, in the beginning of a lot of Arabic verbs, will make it into the person who's performing the action, or something that the action is performed on. It's kind of a prefix that changes the meaning, mu. So you could say safar for travel, and then you have musafir, or the traveler. So the prefix mu is similar to the suffix or er in English. So you have mim. And like I mentioned in the previous video, the letter mim originally in the ancient Arabic, it meant wine, like fermented grapes, wine. And you have mim and then noon. Now noon, you might think, oh, that's one of the bold letters like we saw earlier with ba, ta, tha. But noon, as you can tell, it's a little bit more narrow, and the bowl goes underneath the line, the solid line that I talked about earlier. Whereas with the bold letters, they're on the line or slightly above the line. But with noon, it goes underneath the line. So noon, the way I remember it is like noon o'clock. It's noontime, midday, noon. Noon. And it's just like N in English, basically. Noon. And so you have Qaf, Kaf, Lam, Mim, Noon, Ha. Ha. So Ha is like a softer H. It's not exactly like the English H, though. If you're using the English H with this letter, you are going to have an American accent, for sure, an English accent. Because in Arabic, I feel like it's much lower in the throat, and there's a lot more aspiration to it. You have a stronger sound, ha, ha. It's not quite like that, but you still have ha, ha, ha. You can still hear like more friction. You can hear more aspiration going on there, if that makes sense. So there's one word that means, it's like as an adjective, it means pure, and that is mutahhara. 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 So you can hear there's kind of some aspiration going on there. And it's kind of, I don't know how to describe it really. It's kind of something you're going to have to listen a lot more for. And it just sounds a little bit different. So there's one Arabic word that comes to mind, waham, 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 which means whims, like your whims or your desires, or maybe your imagination or idea that comes to you. Plural would be awham, but waham. And also a word that starts with ha is huda, which means guidance. And then after that, we have Qaf, Kaf, Lam, Mim, Noon, Ha, Wow. So wow, the letter wow. Just like the English wow. Just like the English W. Wow. So we have wow, and it's pretty much identical to the English W sound, wow. But the interesting thing about this letter in particular, that makes it a lot different than many other letters is not only is it like a consonant or what we call like a glide or a liquid, you know, wow, wow. Because technically there's not really a point of articulation, even though the tongue is moving and it's kind of affecting the vowel sound. Wow, wow. And those lips, for sure, they're rounded. Whenever you see the wow, typically it means your lips are going to round. But wow can also represent a vowel or a diphthong, depending on how it's placed in the word. So sometimes it can be a diphthong, as in the word you put an aleph and then you put a wow next to each other and you get ow, ow, ow. So the word for Sufism in Arabic is tasawwuf, tasawwuf. So here you have a wow that is a diphthong and then all of a sudden changes into the W sound. So you have tasawwuf. Tasawwuf is Sufism. And in the word Sufi in Arabic they say Sufi. Su. There's a wow that represents a long oo. Sufi. Suf. The word Suf means wool. A Sufi was the one who wore wool, or was an ascetic, someone who tried to live a poor life, because wool was considered clothing of the poor, the fuqara. So you have this letter wow, which wow has a lot of functions. And so it can be like the W sound, it can be a long oo sound. And whenever you see it as a long oo sound, you got to remember round those lips. Ooh. So it's in the word buyut, which is plural for house, bait, buyut. See how there's that longer oo sound? And sometimes it ends at the end of a verb too. It makes the oo sound. Sometimes it's ow, like I mentioned earlier. So depending on how it's written, and we'll get into this stuff later on as we start to go through lessons on how to write the Arabic script, because now I'm just introducing you the Arabic letters, the huruf al-ajrumiyyah. And in the next lessons we're going to have to figure out, how to actually write them, because when they're isolated like here, they're isolated letters. But when you start to connect them to make words, they take on different forms depending on whether they're the initial letter in a word, an isolated letter in a word, they take the middle letter of a word, or they end a word. So we're going to get into that later on and how they change depending on the positions they're in. And you'll notice that the sister letters, they will change very similar ways, if not the exact same way. So we have wow, then we have, so alif ba, or no, let me start from qaf, kaf, lam, mim, nun, ha, wow, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we're almost done. Yeah, the Arabic letter yeah, which is just like the Y in English, but here again. Yeah, this is a special letter, kind of like wow. So when you use it as like a consonant, or like the Y sound, yeah, functions as a consonant kind of when you're writing it in Arabic, but yeah makes that sound. But sometimes it can also make the long E sound. E sound. Yeah. Yeah. And it has two dots underneath. Sometimes if you see it without the two dots, it can be a long ah. Ah. So sometimes you have to be careful of that. Like the word ala. Ala. Okay. So you have two dots underneath. It can be a long E sound. It can be a ya sound. Also, it can be an A sound. A, as in the word bait, or house. Bait. And usually there'll be vowel markings to indicate that, but not always, because Arabs would automatically know that, hey, that's the word bait, without any vowel markings on it, diacritics, or what they call in Arabic tashkil. So this letter has, you know, different functions, and it's a special letter. So Aleph has different functions like that. Aleph can also be a long vowel. Ah. And so Aleph, Waw, and Ya, they're like special letters that have multiple functions. And so those ones you really want to pay a lot of attention to. And then, I hope I'm not forgetting any letters, but I believe this is the last letter of the alphabet. And this is going to be the Hamza. And it's not to be confused with the name Hamza, because my name Hamza starts with the strong ha. Ha. Where the name of this letter starts with like the smaller H sound. Ha. So Hamza. Hamza. And this basically is, like I said, in the very beginning of the first part, or I guess it'd be the second part of the Arabic script in depth. I mentioned when I was talking about Aleph that this is a letter that represents an epiglottal stop. The Hamza represents an epiglottal stop. So you will see it in words like ra'as, which means head, or ru'us, which means heads, plural. Ru'us. You'll also see it in the word ra'i, which means like my opinion. And you'll see it in the word jitta, which means came or come. He came, he come. And then it'll start words, it can end words, where the word ends in a hamza, like the word fuqara. So that ends in a hamza, so you could say fuqara'u. You can see how there's a pause there. Fuqara'u. So there's an epiglottal stop there before the next vowel. You could say al-fuqara or fuqara'un. So that's kind of how the Hamza functions. We'll get more into that later, and we'll look at the various ways that Hamza shows up, because it shows up in more unusual ways in the Arabic script than many of the other letters. So, yeah, that's the last part of the Arabic script. Now, as far as other languages go that are written with the Arabic script, sometimes they add their own letters. Like you'll see that in Persian, Farsi, or in Urdu, or you see it in the Turkish, the way Turkish is written with the Arabic alphabet, or Somali, those types of things. So, you know, obviously Arabic isn't the only language that uses the Arabic alphabet. The Arabic alphabet spread out. The English numerals are based off the Arabic alphabet. Because Arabs were pretty good at math and basically spread math to Europe. That's why we have the Arabic word in English algebra, from Arabic al-jabr. So, yeah. And we can get into the Arabic numbers later and how to write the Arabic numbers, and you know what all the Arabic numbers are in Arabic as well. And we'll get into the book. I still have over here Arabic course for English speaking students, this one in particular. It's called Durus al-Ajrumiyyah in Arabic. So yeah, the next video that I'm going to make is still going to be about the Arabic script, and we're going to get into, you know, how to write the letters, whether they start the word, whether they're isolated, you know, whether they're in the middle of the word or they end a word. Because it's important to know them in all their various forms, or you're going to have a hard time being able to read them. And also maybe in the future I'll talk about the different like styles that the Arabic script excuse me, that the Arabic script is written in, because the Arabs have their own traditional way of writing it, and I kind of want to talk about the history of how it was written, because as we noticed with some of these letters, some of the only difference between two letters is a dot. The only difference between ayn and ghayn is a dot. The only difference between ta and dha is a dot. The only difference between sod and lod is a dot. The only difference between ba, ta, tha is dots. Okay? And one of the ways that they originally wrote the Arabic alphabet was with no dots. No dots. Because they were native speakers, they knew what was supposed to be there, because they knew all the words of the language. They knew what it was supposed to be. They later started adding the dots when foreigners were having trouble, or when something became ambiguous, when it could be more than one word. So we'll go over kind of the history of that stuff. I think that's very interesting, and it also kind of shows you how important this stuff is, and I think it helps you to memorize it and helps you to retain it. So yeah, and feel free to comment below or give me a message. If you have any suggestions or anything you want me to do in future videos, please let me know. If you're struggling in any way with the Arabic script or with Arabic language, please let me know, and I can try my best to help you. You can message me here on YouTube or on Facebook. Please subscribe below, and I hope that you benefit from the Arabic lessons that I'm giving. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Ma'a salama. Bye-bye.